So I was speaking with a friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about different ideas that we had, events that we wanted to produce together, things we were going to create together. And I was really excited for the potential of what me and this person were going to create together. And then she tells me that beginning next year, she's planning on moving away out of Louisville. And I went home that night and I cried. It breaks my heart that people feel the need to move away from Louisville to find things that they're looking for. And I'm sure many of you all have experienced the same thing. On the other hand, though, there was a friend of mine, a painter that was here from LA a few months before that. And after being here for only a couple weeks, he decided that he wanted to move here and build his art career from LA. And I found that really curious, these two drastically different experiences of Louisville and perceptions of Louisville. And today I'm going to kind of talk about what I observed to be the difference in what these two people experienced here, what made this one woman, my friend, want to move away, and what made my other friend want to move here from LA to build his art career. And I'm going to offer a few thoughts and a few just perspectives I have on how we can do more of those things so that my friend doesn't feel the need to move away. Growing up, I was never really proud to be, I was never really proud to be from Louisville. None of my friends were proud to be from Louisville. We always spoke about moving away, and it was something that always kind of confused me, why we weren't so proud to be from this place that raised us. But today, I am so proud to be from Louisville and to live in Louisville. And to figure out kind of what changed for me during that time, I went back and looked at what were some of the moments over the past couple years that made me proud to be from Louisville. What were the moments that really influenced my perspective on that? And I found things like when I was standing in the crowd at Headliners Music Hall watching Kiana and the Sun Kings release their last EP. Yes, they're amazing. And I was standing there watching, and Kiana has these beautiful monarch butterfly wings, and it was incredible. And it was moments like when I was at Louisville, the hip-hop music festival, and we were surrounded by local talent and local artists, and we're all experiencing the amazing kind of underground talent that Louisville had to offer. Moments like when I'm on Market Street and I see 100 bike riders bike by, the Bikes, Brews, and Cruise people, if you all know them, and it's just so interesting. It's so fun to see that. Other moments, like at the end of the runway at K-Mac Couture Fashion Show, watching local models and designers walk down the runway and then partying with them afterwards. When my friends and I walk into a local art gallery opening and we can feel the creative energy in the space. Moments like watching That's Crazy Camp build their rap and music collective and release an amazing series of music videos. My friend Hindo Houdini just dropped a music video that featured all local artists, and it was amazing. And I looked at that and I thought, wow, I'm so happy to be in Louisville right now. I'm so proud to be from Louisville. And when we look at all of those moments, I start to get a better idea of what made me proud to be from Louisville, and I think what also made my friend from LA decide to move here. Because the short time that he spent here was leading up to and during Derby, when Louisville was activating and our community was activating and creating experiences. While he was here, he experienced Steve Wilson's wild 21C Derby party. He experienced the 3 days of Louisville and connecting with all those local artists. He experienced Shepard Fairey's Muhammad Ali mural and the art show around that. Hanging out with us, he met countless local artists and went to their studios, and he experienced the people of Louisville because while he was here, Louisville was active, and there were so many spaces for him to go to and experience that. Now, if you ask someone why they're proud to be from where they're from, or why they're proud to live where they live, I think that you'll likely hear things like, I love the people, or I love the culture, it means something to me. I love the events, I love the shows, I love the art, I love the music. These are the things that I think people speak of. If you went to New York and nothing was going on, it wouldn't be very special to be in New York. We don't say that we love Louisville because of the weather. We don't have mountains or beaches here. We say that we love Louisville because of the people here. And I think, so I believe that a city's pride in itself comes from creative people creating things, creating spaces, creating businesses, hosting events, building things. For us all to be truly proud of Louisville, we need things to point to and say, that is why I love Louisville. That is why I'm proud of Louisville. And that starts with us. if you all look around the room right now, this room is full of some of the brightest, most intelligent, creative people in the city. I think that greater pride in our city starts with us, with the people in this room right now. The things that we create together become the backbone of what makes us all proud to be from Louisville. And so I think that Louisville needs us to activate and organize and create and work together to create things that we can all point to and say, that's why I love being in Louisville. That's why I'm proud to be from Louisville. Now, I don't consider myself successful, but I do believe that with immense help from my friends and my partners who are all here today, we have created something that some people point to and say, that's why I'm proud to be from Louisville. And so today I'm going to offer 5 things that have been fundamental to what we have created, 5 things that have allowed us to get to where we are now. In hopes that some of you all may take some of these things and implement them into your own ideas and create your own ideas, so that my friend doesn't have to move away. So number 1, kind of the first thing that we did that was important to us was observation, was observing the world around us and observing society around us, observing the community around us in the city, just keeping our head up and our eyes open and our ears open and just seeing what was going on around us. One of the first observations that we made was we looked at the entrepreneurial and the startup community, and we saw a host of support organizations, resources, spaces for these people to all grow and work together. But when we looked at the creative and the arts community, which I would argue is bigger than the entrepreneurial community, we saw none of that support happening. And so, we saw that there was a discrepancy there was an issue, and we figured that if that type of support worked for entrepreneurs, then it should work for creatives as well. And so that was kind of the first observation that we made, and when we first started out, that provided us kind of a way to think about what we were doing and communicate it to people. We used to say that we were building the YPAL and the Louisville Business First of the creative community. And that started just from observing what was working elsewhere, what might be a problem, where the gap is. The creative social event that he mentioned started from an observation as well, in that we were going to lots of local events. We were going to shows, art openings, galleries, all kinds of events that we attended. And we found from just observing the people around us that the thing that people seemed to enjoy most about going to those events was talking to their friends, was hanging out with people and seeing people that they hadn't seen in a while. I think as creatives, a lot of us have day jobs in other places, and so the only place that we get to see our other creative friends is at events that we're going to together at a place like this. And so that observation, we kind of thought, what if we take out the art component of it and just host an event for people to come together to see their friends that they don't always see. And our first creative social had over 350 people at it. And so we kind of, we figured that we had made a correct observation that people did indeed want something like that. For our agency, observation takes on a few forms. Let me see if I forgot my slides here. For agency, observation takes on a few forms. Through just conversations that we were having and seeing what was happening around us, we realized that almost every local business, nonprofit, organization, city government was struggling to communicate the great things that they were doing to the community, to the city around them, specifically younger people, people under the age of 40 or 50. Everyone we spoke to couldn't figure out how to communicate what they were doing to the people that they wanted to communicate it to. And around that same time, through just observing ourselves and our peers and the people around us, we realized that all of our attention had shifted onto social media. And our attention was just in different places than it had been before. And so when we observed that, we realized it made sense that none of these organizations could communicate with us because we were communicating in entirely different places. And so from that observation, we shifted kind of the entire strategy of our agency to exist in that space, using our knowledge of our age group and our demographic, and the knowledge that there was a gap there to kind of bring those two together. Now, the next point, the next important thing that we did, once you observe a problem or an opportunity, you have to act on it. You have to put it out there. And probably the most important thing that we ever did for Creative Connect was just start. We did it. We put it out there. And I owe almost all of the credit here to my co-founders, Jason and Austin, in the back there. Yeah, give them a round of applause. because I am a horrible procrastinator. I am a perfectionist. I overthink everything. I will think myself to death, and I will never start any ideas that I have. They're laughing at me back there because they know. But they knew that, and they really pushed us to start. And last June, 2 Junes ago, we launched at the KMAC Museum. We hosted our first event, and I'm so glad that we did, because the side effect of just starting that we didn't expect to happen is that opportunities will come to you naturally after you start. There are so many things that will happen for you. There's so many things that will come that you can't possibly imagine before you start. And so once you start, a lot of these things will just start falling into place. And so after we hosted our first event, Leo Weekly reached out to us, wanted to write an article about us and the event and about the studio that we were building at the time. From that article, we got reached out to by local real estate developers that were offering us space in their buildings to build our concept out, and that was just a wild thing that we didn't expect to happen. But it only happened because we had done something, we'd put something out there, and people could see it, and people could say, I like that, I want that to, I want to be a part of that. For the Creative Social event, it was the same situation. Once we started, we got reached out to by countless bars and restaurants and venues, asking us to come host our events in their spaces. Most recently, 4th Street Live reached out to us. Paris Town Hall wants us to bring our events to their spaces. That never would have happened if we hadn't just started the Creative Social, because suddenly they could all see it. And I think what we realized here is the opportunities that you might want you to. They just don't know that you exist until you start it. So that's been one of the most influential things. The other important reason, see if I have another slide here. The other important reason to starting is that once you start, you have something to steer. You have something to move in a direction. When we started Medici Creative, our agency, we had zero knowledge on how to run an agency. We just knew how to make cool videos and take cool photos. We really had no idea what we were doing. But we knew that there was potential for something there. And so we started it, and since starting it, we've since learned and observed and grown and learned how to actually do some of these things properly and found systems and found opportunities in the market. But the most important thing was that we had something already established to add that knowledge to and to build on. If we had waited until we learned all of these things, we wouldn't have had something tangible and something established to add to. And when opportunities came to us in the market, we wouldn't have had anything established to steer in the direction of those opportunities. For Creative Connect, it was the same way. We started with just an idea. We had just a bunch of ideas, and we really had no idea what we were doing when we started Creative Connect. It was just a dream that we had. Since starting Creative Connect, though, we found ideas and structures in media publications and nonprofits and organizations, and we've been able to kind of slowly add these structures and these things that we were learning to the thing that we had already built. But because we had already started it, we were already 10 steps ahead when we were learning those things and adding to it. If we waited until I learned about nonprofits or about media publications or that structure, we would have started 10 steps behind. So that's, I think that is one of the most important things that we did, was just put it out there into the world before you feel like you're ready. And if you have an idea, that's my biggest recommendation to people. So our version of just starting meant 400 people coming to the KMAC Museum for an organization that they had never heard of before. And the question that we often get asked is, how the hell did that happen? How do we get 400 people to show up to something that they knew nothing about? And my answer to that now is a practice that we implement that I like to call ruthless empathy, which essentially means, if you're in advertising, you understand what empathy means in this context. But for us, it's that everything we do with consideration of who we're doing it for. And so whether we're hosting an event, or we're creating a new platform, or we're creating a piece of content, we first ask ourselves, who am I doing this for? What does this person actually care about? What does this person actually want? What might this person be concerned about? Why might this person not show up to this event that I'm going to do? And the reason that, and then the answers to those questions guide what we do and how we do it. And the reason that's important is, let me see if I have other slides here. I keep missing my slides. The reason that's important is, the nature of what we do and the success of what we do depends on other people. If we host an event and no one shows up to it, it doesn't really matter. If we put out a piece of content and no one watches it, we may as well have not done that piece of content. If we create a new platform and no one participates in it, then there's not much point in us doing that. So we recognized early on that we were dependent on other people caring about and paying attention to what we were doing. And so, within that, it only made sense to us that we needed to care about what that person actually wanted us to do. And so, back to our first event, how did that happen? I think by practicing kind of a basic level of empathy, we realized that no one would show up to our event if they didn't know who we were or what we were or who we were associated with. So that was kind of the first step of empathy that we did. We knew that no one would show up. And so then the challenge became, okay, what can we do to make ourselves feel familiar to people, to make people feel connected to the Creative Connect before they got to experience it. And that's kind of the basic idea of empathy for us right there, is before we do something, we think about who we're doing it for, what are they concerned about, will they show up to this event or not, and if the answer is no, what can we do to ensure that they do show up to this event, because we want people to come to our events. And so the idea that we came up with to make Creative Connect feel familiar was we hosted a dinner party at our studio a week before the event was supposed to happen. And at that dinner party, we invited some of our artist friends, we invited some key artists and creatives in the community that we knew the community respected, that we liked and respected. And at that event, we interviewed each of these artists and asked them questions about their creativity and their art and what they were passionate about. And then we turned all those interviews into a roughly 3-minute-long short film that we were going to premiere at the event. But the key thing that we did was we cut a 30-second version of that and posted that on our social media the day before the event was supposed to happen. And so, suddenly, our brand new organization that no one knew anything about suddenly not only had a face, but it had 10 or 15 faces that people already trusted in the community and already liked and felt connected to. And so suddenly, people were intrigued, people were talking about it, people were interested, they felt comfortable with it. They saw people in the video and said, oh, I know that guy, I wonder if he'll be there. Maybe I'll feel more comfortable going now. So that was, because we had practiced empathy in the beginning, we came up with a way to ensure that people would feel comfortable coming to our first event. And it worked. So that was kind of the strategy for marketing our first event. But yeah, it started just by asking, why might people not show up? What are they concerned about? And so another really important tweak that we made to that first event that I think was influential in the amount of people that showed up was a last-minute name change to the event itself. The original idea was just we were going to launch Creative Connect. It was a Creative Connect launch party, and that was going to be the name of the event. But by practicing a little bit of empathy, we were afraid that it sounded too much about us, and that people might not resonate with that if we made the event about us. And so by practicing some empathy, we kind of thought that if we made the event about them, people would show up, individuals and creatives would show up to an event that was for them and not for us. And so we changed the name last minute to Night for Creatives. I think I have a slide for this too. To a Night for Creatives. And so instantly the night was now about them. It was about the creatives, it was about the individuals, and not about us. And I think that was, those small little tweaks, by putting ourselves in the shoes of who we're creating it for and allowing that to guide these decisions that we make, have really influenced our impact on the things that we've done. And I think we've maintained that kind of outward messaging ever since. Nothing that we do is really about us. It's all about the individual. It's about the creative. And I think that really resonates with people. But that started with, again, practicing empathy and putting ourselves in the shoes of the people that we're creating for. Some kind of small ways in which this works: when I'm creating a video for social media, I will actually post it on a burner account first. And this is kind of goofy sometimes, but I'll pretend I'm scrolling through Instagram and land on the video. And if I watch it and it doesn't engage me, I'll go back to the drawing board and keep editing it until I'm pretending I'm scrolling through Instagram and I come across it and it is actually engaging to me. That is empathy for me. I create through the eyes of who I'm creating for. when we host events, any event concept that we come up with or that kind of comes across our table, we first ask ourselves, is this an event that I would go to? Does this resonate with me? And if the answer is no, then we keep working at the event until we can honestly say, yes, if this event was presented to me in this way, I would go to this. And sometimes, it's the concept of the event that is off. Sometimes it's, we just wouldn't go to that event because we just don't like the idea of it. Sometimes it's just the messaging around it. In that example, the Creative Connect launch party versus a night for creatives. And that, just these small tweaks of, these small tweaks that we made by putting ourselves in the shoes of who we're creating for have really impacted our impact over the past few years. Persistence. I was speaking with my mom the other day, who's sitting right there. Yeah. I was speaking with my mom, and I told her that I felt like a fly, like a little bug. I'm sure you've seen a fly, trying to get through a window, and the fly just keeps buzzing up against that window and just keeps bouncing off and getting knocked back. But for some reason, it keeps trying again. It keeps going at that window, no matter how many times it gets knocked back. And I told my mom, I said, that's how it feels to try to create something, to try to build something impactful. I feel like a fly. And there's a part of this that you don't see on my Instagram. There's a part of this that anyone who's created anything significant probably knows. I fail constantly. I make a lot of mistakes, and the majority of my life is trying things and getting knocked back, and trying again and getting knocked back, and trying again and getting knocked back over and over and over again, till finally I break through that window or find an opening. That really has been my reality for the past couple years, and that's the part that we don't often talk about, and the part that you don't see publicly on my social media or when I talk to you. I've learned though that getting knocked back and stumbling is kind of a necessary part of this. But an equally, if not more necessary part is getting back up again and trying again. And so kind of to illustrate this, I want to tell you all about one of the worst mistakes that I've made in the past couple years. There was last January, I brought someone onto our team that I thought would be amazing. It was going to help us build everything. They were not amazing. And over the course of the next 5 to 6 months, it really broke us apart. It broke me apart. It broke my team and I apart. And, it really, the way that this person treated us and treated me filled us with fear and with doubt, and we lost confidence in ourselves. We no longer believed in ourselves, no longer believed in what we could do and the impact that we could have. It felt as though everything was kind of crumbling down around us, and it was all because of a decision that I had made and that I continued to allow to happen. And I remember a particular day, I'm sitting on the edge of my bed, just crying into my hands because of a text that this person had sent me that made me feel terrible about myself and about what we were doing, and I had lost all confidence in what we were doing, in myself. I no longer believed that what we were doing was going to be possible. And there was actually a day that I had planned to give up. There was a day that I had planned to call it quits. And it just so happened that a day before that day, my friends and my family convinced me to cut that person out of our lives and out of our business. And we did. And if not for that, we might not be here right now. Creative Connect might not be here right now. It was a really horrible time in my life and in my friends' lives. But the important part of this story is that despite being on the verge of giving up what we had tried so hard for and going through that, we got back up and we tried again. That was the most important part. And I had a moment just a few weeks ago where I was just looking around and I realized that despite going through that, despite being on the verge of giving everything up and feeling like an absolute failure, I got back up and I tried again. Because just not even a month after that experience happened, and we cut that person out of our lives, we hosted our first creative social at the local seltzery, and 350 people showed up. And that set off a month of amazing events and art and creativity and experiences and things that we did and growth over this past summer. And so it's interesting for me now to think about, if you're trying something and you feel like you keep buzzing up against that window and you keep getting knocked back, keep trying, because you might just be on the verge of something amazing. When I was on the verge of giving up, I'm so glad that I got back up and I tried again. Now, let's see here. My last point, and the reason why I think I was able to persist through that and to try again, is because of a deep-rooted belief that I have in myself and in my ideas and in the things that we're creating. In my research for this talk, I found countless videos of successful business people, athletes, actors, musicians, singers, that all spoke of this blind faith that they had in what they were creating. They all spoke of this almost knowledge that it would succeed. For these people, there seemed to never be a question of whether or not what they were trying to do would work out. From Oprah to Michael B. Jordan to Jim Carrey to Kanye West to Jack Harlow, they all spoke of this delusional belief that they had in themselves, and it was just never a question for them. And I realized that that's an attitude that I share as well, and have always shared. To me, no matter what crazy idea I've had or just wild thought that I've had, I always believed that it was possible, that I could do it. And I think that's because of a variety of things, the way that my parents always supported my crazy ideas, to the color of my skin. There's a lot of reasons for that. And I'm not saying that just believe in your dreams and it'll all become reality. Belief is not a magic fix to anything. But what I do think belief is, and what belief is for me, is a necessary first step to everything else. No amount of persistence or empathy or observation or starting will matter if you don't have a deep-rooted belief in yourself. When I was going through that time with that person that I brought into our business, I realized the one thing that happened during that time was that I lost all belief in myself and in what we were creating. Everything else was going great. We had great ideas, we had a great team, we were moving along, we had started stuff, but I had lost all faith in what we were doing. And so none of that stuff mattered, and everything came crashing down. Sometimes for us, this really big belief and this really big thinking can be kind of delusional and kind of silly. We were speaking with our team just the other day, and we were talking about what if our agency goes so well and goes so big that one day our clients are putting our logo on their website. And that's obviously, if you work in the ad world, a silly thought. But it's that kind of delusional, big picture thinking that has carried us forward, that ignites a lot of our belief in ourselves. That level of confidence in ourselves and in what we're creating has been essential to our ability to continue creating and to persist through when things got hard. Part of the reason, though, that we have that level of confidence in ourselves is because, when we come up with something new, we knew that we had observed the world around us, so the market was ready for it. And we knew that we were going to create an experience that people would resonate with because we practiced empathy. We knew that we were going to start and get it off the ground. We knew that we were going to persist when things got rough. And we were going to do all those things because we really believed in what we were doing. And the reason we had that firm belief is because we observed, we started, we empathized, we're persistent. So do you see kind of the loop that this ends up becoming? These 5 things all kind of work together and all meld together. And I found that if you remove 1 or just 2 of these things, things start to break down, just like things broke down for me when my belief was removed from the picture. If you have the best idea in the world, you've really observed the world around you, you know you have a good idea, you've really empathized, and you know that you can create it in a way that will resonate with people, but you don't really believe that you could be the one to do it, and so you never start, it's not going to matter. Things are going to break down. If you really believe in an idea that you have and you get it off the ground and you're persisting and you try and try and try again, but you never really observe the world around you, and so you have the wrong idea, or you never empathized with who you're creating it for, so you're creating it in the wrong way that doesn't resonate, things will break down. So if you remove 1 or 2 of these 5 elements from what you're trying to create, things don't work quite as well. And so then, the question kind of becomes, where do I start? Where does this loop begin? And for some of you, you all might be already working on things, and you might be able to take one or two of these elements and implement them into something that you're working on. Some of you might have a brand new idea where you need all 5 of these elements to really bring it into reality. And for me, the loop starts with belief, with that deep-rooted belief, just in the way that Kanye and Oprah and Michael B. Jordan spoke about. For me, that's always a starting point. And it starts for me, there's one idea and thought that has really maintained my ability to continue this stuff. And I want to share this thought with you all because it's been really impactful for me. And the thought goes like this. If we were to start a new agency, there's a million different possible outcomes for how that agency could go. Some of them more likely than others, but there's a million possible outcomes that we could imagine. Our investor could move away and pull his funding next week, and things could come crashing down. That's unlikely, but that's an option. Equally as likely is we get really, really lucky, and we make some amazing clients and build an amazing team, and 2 years from now, we're a $10 million agency, and clients are putting our logo on their website. That's unlikely as well, but when you think about it, it is possible. And so, why would we have any reason not to believe that that could be the one outcome that actually happens? That wild, successful scenario might be the thing that actually happens. And when I was living through that period, with the person we brought in, I was living from the belief, from no belief. I was living from fear and doubt, and so I was only focused on things not working out, things not happening. But what we choose now is to live and operate from that belief that one wild, successful scenario might be the one that actually happens. And knowing that is one of the potential million outcomes is knowing that it is possible. And so, it's from that knowledge that those wild, amazing outcomes are possible that we start everything we do from. And to me, that knowledge is really exciting and motivating. And I hope that knowledge is exciting for you as well. Because even, if just 1 or 2 of you use that as a spark of confidence or belief and go out and create your own things from this, it will make me just a little bit more proud to say that I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. Thank you all. Give it up one more time for Sage. So we have a few more minutes of Q&A. If you guys, I would raise a hand if you guys have a question. Yes, Glenn.
What's up, Sage? That's awesome, by the way.
Thank you.
As a fellow chronic overthinker
Yeah.
and procrastinator, can you talk about the internal work that you've done to overcome those obstacles besides surrounding yourself with awesome?
So the question was, can I talk about the internal work that I've done to help my chronic procrastination and not starting? The answer is no. None. Aside from having great partners and finding people that balance you out well, no, I've got nothing. I still struggle with that to this day. But if I do come up with anything, I will text you and I'll let you know. Sorry, terrible answer to that. Great question. Anybody else? Yeah, Quincy.
So you have a great team. You spoke about all the challenges that you went through last year. After looking at a good overview of what you have on your team, what do you look for in the people that you surround yourself with? The people that you want to help you on your journey?
That's a great question. So I said, what do you look for in people that you surround yourself with in building your team? I do actually have an answer to that one. And I like people that have a perspective on something that have an idea, that have a belief on something. I have a lot of thoughts and beliefs on the city and on art and the community, and that's, I think, kind of why I'm here today. And I look for people. I have strong beliefs on things and strong perspectives, and I like people. I like to surround myself with people that also have strong beliefs, so that we can have conversations about these things and come to the best conclusion. You know, if I'm surrounded by people that just agree with everything that I say, I'm wrong a lot, a lot of times. With the Creative Social, actually, you know, I wanted to have performers and musicians at our first social, and Jason didn't let that happen. And I'm so glad that he didn't, because he was right. It made sense we didn't do that. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is I surround myself with people that have an idea on something, that have a perspective, that will counter me on things, that will say, no, maybe that's not right, maybe we should do it this way, or that have a thought of, they've observed something and they see an opportunity for something and they want to do it. I think there can be a balance of people that have that perspective and that just go with everything that you say and support everything you do. I think that's okay too, to have those people, but it is really important to have people around you that have their own opinions on things. Any other questions? Yes.
First of all, thank you. This is so inspiring. Like definitely said. Okay, so one of the hard things for me is figuring out, like, I know what I love, I know what I'm passionate about, I have ideas. How do you turn something like that into any kind of vision? Like, how was that process for you? Because I feel like I get stuck on that. Like, what do you tangibly do with it?
So like turning ideas that you have, like individual ideas, into something real?
Yeah, or like even coming up with a vision. Like I know what I like.
Yeah.
And I know what I think is like inspiring.
Yeah.
But then
It takes a lot of time. It took us 4 years to get to a place where we had a solid vision. It started with just an inkling of, ooh, what if I do this event? That could be a cool thing that I could go to. And then, that's how it started. It started with one of our ideas was to build a database of creative people in the city. So we had these kind of random ideas that weren't really part of anything cohesive at first. And over the course of years, it developed into something real. And part of that is the just starting part. That when we just started, we had a bunch of ideas. There was no real cohesive vision of what we were doing. But over time, as we were inspired by, and I think a lot of it for me has been research, has been getting inspiration from other places. I steal a lot of ideas from from other places and bring them into my own. I'm sure you're familiar with the steal like an artist thing. I take ideas, things that I've seen in New York or in LA, in these bigger cities, and think, is this possible here? Can we do this here? And that kind of culmination of thoughts and ideas and perspectives from all over the place forms my vision constantly. And it's always changing, and that is, again, the importance of starting, is that it's going to keep changing. And it's taken us, 2 years to get to the place where we are now. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Just it takes time to really, for those ideas to really come together into something solid. At least that's what happened for me. Yeah. Yes. Oh yeah, our next Creative Social is September 7th, so we're doing them the first Thursday of every month down at the local seltzery. Yes? Yeah.
So my question is, with everything that you've learned thus far, what do you look forward to learning within the next, 5 or 6 months? What is something that you're looking forward to in the next couple of weeks?
Yeah. What do I look forward to learning in the next 6 months? Because we started with no experience. I didn't go to college, and I never really spent any time in in other agencies or in other companies. So I didn't really have any previous knowledge on how things like that operated and how things like that worked. And so kind of where I'm at now is it's been a constant process of figuring out how to take these crazy ideas and visions that we have and give them structure and give them some level of organization. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And that's the thing I'm most excited about now, is diving into business classes and organization and learning about management. And I read a lot of books. Well, I try to when I have time. But that's one of the biggest things that helps me, is having not gone to college, I get a lot of that information and knowledge from reading books about these topics. And so that's kind of what I'm looking into now, reading about people who have built great organizations like Pixar and Disney, and learning how they did what they did and what processes and structures they had, so that I can start implementing some of those into our work. Because right now everything's still a bit kind of loosey-goosey all over the place. But yeah, so implementing structure is kind of what I'm interested in learning now. Any other questions? Dream?
So, since you started, I imagine you as a person have changed a lot in your experiences. How do you deal with having a new version of yourself since the beginning?
How do I deal with having a new version of myself from when I started? When I had this philosophy, I gave a TEDx talk last year, and the talk was about how to attract the things that you want into your life. And the premise of that was that I had this phrase that is, the flower doesn't dream of the bee, the flower just blossoms, and the bee comes to it. And it's the idea that if the things that you want in life might come to you, you just have to blossom first. You have to become the best version of yourself. And I think that has been the biggest thing that has changed for me over that time, in that when I graduated high school, I was really lonely when I graduated high school. I was surrounded by people that I didn't really resonate with, I didn't connect with. But since starting Creative Connect, I've blossomed into the life and the person that I always wanted to be. And now I'm surrounded by amazing people like you all, and I feel comfortable now, and I feel seen, as the person that I am. And so I think it wasn't really that I changed, it was more that me doing these things helped other people see the version of me that I wanted to be and that I wanted people to see. I don't know if that answers your question, but somewhat, yeah. Got one last question here. We get one more? Yeah, how did I bounce back after cutting that person out of our lives? That was something that I thought a lot about, and I thought about putting it in the talk. I think it took time. It took weeks of, and some of us are still recovering in certain ways from that. But it took a few weeks at least, and would have taken more of being depressed, frankly, of not knowing where to go, of what to do, of feeling like everything might not work out. The one thing I think that really kick-started our recovery from that, though, was hosting our first creative social. That was already on the calendar before that had happened. And so we were kind of like, well, we have to do this now. It makes sense for us to do this. It was easy for us to do. And so when we were in that period of just questioning and not sure what was going to happen after we had cut that person out, I think the biggest thing that helped jumpstart our recovery from that was doing that thing, was starting that thing again, and just kind of forcing ourselves to get back into it, because you can't rely on your motivation or your belief really, a lot to do that. And starting the Creative Social and having 350 people showed up really was like a boost for us. It really reignited our passion and our belief in what we were doing. And so I think for us it was doing something. It was putting something out there again, and not waiting around and thinking about it and wondering if it's a good idea or not. We just put it out there. That was probably the biggest thing. And then also, for me, we knew that the reason that person treated us the way that they did was not because of us. We later realized, and as we thought about it and processed, we knew that person had not great things going on in their life. And so it was freeing for us to realize that it wasn't about us. And I think that's something that's consistent in your personal relationships, in your friendships, and with your loved ones, whatever. A lot of the ways that people treat us is not really about us. It's about things that they have going on in their lives. And so for us, the realization of that was very freeing for us and allowed us to move on from that time, I think. Does that answer your question? Yeah.